Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of our virtual production. I always forget the name of this thing, a filmmaking production diary. I'm your host, Miguel Ortega. It's my co-host, Tran Ma, and today we have a special guest, our good friend and longtime collaborator, Chris Bostjanick. What's up, Chris?
Hey guys.
Chris is
Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Chris is one of the most talented people we have ever worked with. We've worked with Chris for so many years at this point. So yeah, thanks for being here, dude.
Yes, Chris, thank you so much.
Yeah,
No worries. Thanks for letting me help out.
yeah. So do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself? I don't know what you're allowed to say or not say work related. So
Oh, yeah. Well, currently I am a cinematic artist at Blizzard. Probably all I can really say about that, but
well, that's a lot.
I mean, basically, I just make models and
Make
that's about
models.
it. models, and I make a lot of rocks. A lot of
Oh,
rocks.
what about before your days at Blizzard?
Before Blizzard, I was at DD for about 4.5 years as a senior lead facial modeler, working on whatever DD's hero characters are for whichever films, like Infinity War, mostly just Marvel films, really. I think that might be in the future all their only kind of films there are. You
I think
know,
that is all there is.
it's like another Marvel film, yes. um, so did that, and then before DD, I was at ImageWorks as a senior modeler there, and then character artist in games. I worked at Telltale Games for a while as a senior character artist, and then before that I spent maybe 8 years at Lucasfilm as the character lead and facial lead for TV shows and animated features.
You were on all the
Um,
Clone War stuff,
yep, all Clone Wars for a long time, like a really long time.
so you've seen all of them.
Yeah, oh yeah. Even
You
the
are you a Star Wars fan? I've actually never asked you.
I really like Star Wars, but I'm really more of a fan of the stuff George Lucas was tied to.
Yeah,
Like the new stuff, I don't know. For me, it doesn't really feel like Star Wars. It just feels like Disney grasping at straws to make something that feels original and like the original Star Wars films. And man, they make some bad decisions.
have you seen Andor?
I have seen Andor. I liked it a lot, actually. Um,
Yeah.
I also like The Mandalorian. Mandalorian is pretty sweet.
What did you think of season 3?
I liked it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's some episodes that are, oh, good God, kill me. But when you get to the episodes where they're like fighting and flying around with jetpacks, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Can't really complain too much about that. But all in all, I'm definitely a Star Wars fan. I think I'm more a fan of the design language of Star Wars. At least the prequels. You know, up until episode whatever the latest one was. Always like the ship designs and all of that kind of stuff. So, and then of course anything I worked on Star Wars, I like having the toys around.
What did
So,
you work on? Like, is there any
uh,
highlights?
what?
Is there any highlights that you worked on Star Wars?
Oh, well, I made Ahsoka and Anakin and Obi-Wan
And that's the
and
first Ahsoka.
yeah, yeah.
That's
And
pretty awesome.
then, oh yeah, it's crazy to see how far she's come as a character in the universe. But all you do is make at least on Clone Wars, really all you do is make cool stylized characters, blasters, and spaceships. I mean, there's not much other than that to do. So, and everything comes out as a toy pretty much. So, you also get to see your spaceships come out as toys and your characters come out as toys, which is always really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of
Um,
awesome.
to see and be a part of that. And I think when you're at Lucasfilm, working on a Star Wars project there is probably one of the better highlights or shows to be on. At least back in the day when I was there, it was that was kind of where you wanted to be. You always had like voice actors popping into the studio, going by your office. Used to see the guy from Highlander,
Uh-huh.
the dude with the cut neck.
The old
He,
school guy?
yeah, yeah. He used to come into our office like multiple times a year. He was the voice of one of our characters, so he comes around a lot. Seth Green was around a lot. He was doing a Star Wars show as well with us. Almost ran him over in my car once.
The robot chicken stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
He,
done like through Lucasfilm? Like they totally allowed him. He did, right? They did do some Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, he made his own. I don't know if it ever got released. It was called what was it called? Detours, I think. Star Wars Detours.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a Star Wars parody kind of comedy, making fun of itself type of show. I assume they just shelved it because it was too, making too much fun of the actual IP as they're trying to come out with more serious pieces.
Yeah.
I would assume that's probably why they shelved it, but pretty funny though.
Like it actually hurt. The jokes hurt. The jokes hurt.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I think the other really cool thing about working at Lucasfilm, at least when we were there, is we worked on up at the ranch. So like if we wanted to go into like the archive building just for reference, we could just go in there with a camera and just like grab all the maquettes and be like, "Whoa, what are we making? Oh, let's take pictures of this." So they've got like giant wall paintings of matte paintings that you can like.
Yeah.
They've got all the matte paintings on like the glass doors that they did that they can pull out and like show you. Lots of cool stuff in there.
That's awesome.
So there's definitely perks. I don't know what it's like now. It kind of seems like. I mean, ILM and Disney is just
and everything. So.
Yeah, it feels almost more like a factory at this point. Like, I think a lot of the things that I thought were special about Lucasfilm have kind of, faded away from what they used to be before they were bought out by Disney. In my opinion, which is kind of like, it's kind of sad. I don't think George ever had that intention of that happening, but well,
it is what it is.
Yeah, it's like, what are you gonna do? It's like, well, so that's pretty much most of my career. Like I haven't really worked too many other places. Actually, really none, really. I don't do a lot of hopping around. It's like try to stay in one spot as long as possible.
Yeah.
Until like their shenanigans is just so ridiculous that I'm just like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Which is usually, I don't know, 4 or 5 year mark when you're just like, oh, I'm ready for something new.
How long have you been at Blizzard for again?
Almost 5 years.
There you go.
Oh, it's getting close. So yeah, we're getting close to the itchy stage of like, do I still want to deal with this? I don't know. But working at Blizzard is a good employer to be with, as long as you can put up with the shenanigans of the corporate lifestyle.
Sure.
As long as that stuff doesn't bother you, great place to be.
Cool. So I guess I should just how do you guys want to do this? Do you want to jump right in, Chris, and show some of the stuff you've been working on, or should we go first and just talk about what we've been working on and then pass it to you?
I think just a brief introduction, like where what Chris is doing and
yeah. So Chris, well, you can talk too.
Yeah, but you're much better at talking. I'd be like, Chris is doing this thing and that thing.
So Chris has been he's helped us out a bunch. So on our previous 2 films, he's helped us out. This is our 3rd collaboration. God damn, we owe this guy a dinner or 2.
Oh yeah, I think it's more than dinner.
You should just invite me over to one of those parties you have all the time, where you go, you haven't been to one of these parties before?
We haven't had
a long
time.
We don't have parties.
We invited you to the premiere of The Voice in the Hollow. You didn't come. You were the only person that we invited to go up on stage, actually.
Yeah.
You say that now.
No, but it's actually true.
It's actually true.
Yeah.
It's so far away.
Well, Chris is what we call him the third amigo. So we can't, we owe Chris a lot. He's a huge part of the reason why our stuff looks good.
Yeah.
So. Look, it's how do they say it in Star Wars? It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Is it symbiotic?
It is. Like the first time, like on the Nino, it was I needed stuff for my reel that was more realistic because all I had was Clone Wars stuff, right? So a lot of people, when you're looking for jobs, they have a hard time seeing through, the work that you have versus the work that you may be applying to be doing. And I think sometimes if your work is all stylized, they have a hard time sort of getting past the fact that that's just the job you had, right? It doesn't mean you can't do more realistic IP and things like that. It's just,
Yeah, they
once
like
you have it's like once you have a job, it's like I don't really have a lot of ambition to keep working on my own stuff at night. Like you make so many models at work that it's like I just want to come home and hang out and do other things.
So then
So
we're the guys that basically you commit to helping out on,
and then
and
we
then
just
you're
keep
like,
coming
God
back.
damn it, why did I commit to that? And
it opened a lot of doors. It made finding film jobs a lot easier. Because I think a lot of the you also have to get past the gatekeepers at film studios, which are the recruiters, unfortunately. And dude, they don't know what they're looking at. They don't.
they're looking.
They're just looking at like, we have a horse. Do you have a horse in your reel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that literally is true though.
Yeah,
Like
it's actually
I
true.
literally tell people like if you apply for a job and there's someone slightly better than you or better than you, but both of you, but one of you has a horse and they're looking for a horse on their film, you're gonna get the job even if you're the lesser artist, just because they're like, oh, horse, he can make a horse. Let's hire the horse guy. Like they can't connect the dots. Like, oh, this guy's really good at anatomy. If he could do a human, he'll do a horse just
Well,
fine.
you can have a goat,
A goat, yeah,
and the other guy has a horse.
yeah, and he'll be like, oh, this guy could
your
do
goat
horses.
can be like really well,
Yeah,
and the other horse could actually be the person who has the horse can actually have a bad looking horse,
but it's a horse.
but they'll pick the horse even if the horse looks bad.
That doesn't mean that the modeling supervisor would have picked that person. It's just like Chris said, the gatekeepers are the HR
because they have to filter. They have to filter.
They might not even show your work to the modeling supervisor.
Oh yeah,
So it's like how it's in some ways it's kind of very frustrating because it's like you won't even show my work to them, but you don't know anything about me and you're not a modeler or whatever it is you're applying for, right? Like, and they're just like, well, if you don't have a Terminator or a, Transformer on your reel, then, we're not going to even look at it. Like, it's like, fine, I guess, but it's kind of not the easiest way to find talent. Or, some studios will, hire someone's friend over talent.
that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I know ILM is very, very much like that, where it's like you could be the best modeler in the world, but like if some guy's friend is applying for the same position, they'll be like, "Oh, do you know anyone in the company?" And you'll be like, "Oh, no." And they're like, "Cool, thanks, bye." Click. And, that's it. So it's kind of cutthroat.
It's not so bad for you anymore. I think you're real and your resume must look really good.
It's not so bad for me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm very selective about where I'll work.
Yeah, you can be selective now.
It's like I want to work somewhere where I'm valued as a person and an artist, right? And a lot of at least visual effects right now, it's like a factory. Every studio is a factory, and you're like a number in a seat, and every studio is working on the exact same projects. It's like doesn't matter where you work, you're going to work on the same stuff. And I have friends that have like left one job being a lead on a show, going to a new studio and working on the same show and building the asset that he just built at the previous studio for their shots.
Yeah.
And it's like, ugh.
Yeah, a lot of wasted effort, a lot of wasted man hours.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. That and the low wages is just like,
Okay.
no thanks.
Well, let me tell you that being an independent filmmaker pays much less.
Yeah.
But look at all the bountiful toys behind you.
Yes.
Miguel doesn't give that up. No
Yeah.
matter what, no matter what. It's there.
I'll be homeless with my Castle Grayskull.
Yeah, that's pretty much. That's how it would be.
I'll sleep. I'll put my
Oh.
head inside the castle. That way, I'm not totally homeless. So, but yeah. So Chris has been helping us out in particular on doing the facial expressions on these characters. He's working on Cot, who's this little guy, the little gray guy. Let me pull him
They're
up.
the one that's a happy face.
This guy.
Yeah.
He's basically a ball with an emoji face.
He's a ball with lots of balls.
Ball with lots of balls. Everything about him is round, and then he has an emoji face. And Chris is doing the expressions on him, and then the other little guy is our friend Shraga is doing the facial expressions for them. And the facial expression stuff is super, super important. It's a lot of work.
It's very important.
It's a very much like a black art. Like a lot of people don't even realize this is a job.
It's a very specific job, and
Yeah.
usually it's a very senior position, right?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, the way I always looked at it was that, it's highly specialized, but it's also something that like most artists are not good at the first time they work in it. Like it's very technical and artistic at the same time. So it can be really hard for even, senior artists that don't really do a lot of expression work. It can be very difficult for them kind of maintaining shape networks and understanding, the tech behind it. And, if you don't understand all that stuff, you just make a mess and break everything without knowing it. So I usually tell people that, like, even a junior facial modeler is a senior modeler. It's not really a position that,
it's
I
not
would
an
normally.
entry level position at all.
No. It's kind of like shot sculpting as well. It's like you got
Yeah.
guys that do amazing work in shot sculpting, and then you got, fresh guys that don't really understand the anatomy and things like that. And it's
That's
like,
something is hard because
Let's show some
holding the
stuff
form.
just
Yeah.
so people can see like what we're talking about.
Yeah,
You could
instead of
pull
just
up some of
talking.
the COD stuff.
yeah. How do I share my screen? Oh, well, let me switch to a mile with stuff in it.
So these renders here, they don't have any facial expressions right now. That's
Yeah.
what.
Well, they have expressions, but they're not moving. Like this guy has obviously an expression, but
It was a test though because we
Yeah.
weren't sure what his face looks like when it's actually smiling because his face has a frown.
Guy's
That's the
amazing.
problem.
I love that guy.
he's the best.
I actually love everything you guys have made on this show. Like, damn,
It's gonna be pretty cool. I think I think it's gonna be cool.
like, love it.
So we have a question here. I have been working with Blender for a year and would like to specialize in lighting and PBR shaders. Any advice? Just keep working on your reel, and then probably if you want to get a job, learn Maya. That's the truth. Whenever someone mentions Blender, Tran and I want to run away because we know that leads to a big debate, and we don't do Blender debates. But
Yeah. We think and everyone understands that Blender is awesome. It's
Yeah.
great, but
it's become like the political hot topic.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's very political. But we think it's great. It's just not. Most studios are not using it.
yeah.
And that's kind of the problem.
Shady on fire.
I mean, I think Blender has a lot of amazing things in it, but at the same time, it seems like everything needs to be a plugin. Like, it's like if you don't have all the plugins, like you can't do anything in it. Like the base Blender is just like, ugh.
Did you see that hairbrush thing that
Yeah,
they showed yesterday?
I did. It looked amazing.
Good lord.
Yes, it looked really, really good.
Yeah.
It looked insane.
For me, it was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I wish this was in Maya.
Yeah.
like every other tool that I think is amazing outside of Maya. I'm like, this is awesome.
But you're right about the plugin side. Like one of those dudes just drops dead, and then that's it. That plugin is never going to get developed any further. Just because it doesn't become open source, right? Just because you make a plugin doesn't mean you're giving it to the community. You could still sell it. Is that correct?
I think a lot of the plugins you have to pay for. I'm not sure. Like every time I've tried to like open up Blender, I give up after like 10 minutes. It's like the same as Modo. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Let me see. And then I'm like, I'm going back to Maya.
Yeah. All right, so show some cool stuff. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm excited.
How do I share my screen?
So the third icon, it's got a little screen with an arrow.
Oh, the thing that says share screen.
Yeah, the thing. Sure.
All right. Crap. Window. Let's go here. Okay, let's look at this little fella. So right now, like when I'm building these, I'm using Simplex as sort of my.
Oh, you're sharing the screen that's the restream screen.
Really? Hold on. Hang on.
And we got stuck in a window and a window and a window.
Yeah, the interstellar thing.
Yeah.
So, wait, do I want to do window, entire screen?
I
No,
do the whole screen because if you just
entire screen.
Yeah, if you just do an app, a lot of stuff doesn't show up.
Okay, so let's see here. Can you see, what does it look like now?
Yeah, let's load
Better?
it. There we are.
Okay, yeah, that looks like it. So, I mean, the guy's head is like a big old ball, right? So it's like, how does this work? Like,
it's not a big old ball. It is a big old ball.
He needs his clothes.
Yeah.
So he is a ball.
He looks so sad. So a lot of it is kind of like exploratory in some ways, because you're like, dude, what does this thing look like when it's moving? Like, I don't think anybody knows till you start doing stuff. So, I tend to use Simplex as my sort of workhorse that stores all my shapes and my connections, and then when I'm done with that, I'll just export all that stuff out and give it to you guys. I find it's easier to work within a tool like this. Just gives me a lot more organization. It's easy to use. I can split all my shapes out directly out of here, as long as they're named properly. So, get out of here. Let's see kind of. Normally, I'll start with like a shape transfer, regardless of what this thing looks like.
Shape transfer meaning what? Like you will apply it from another thing you've done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's take a look at what that process actually looks like.
Oh, that's Koa.
Look at little Koa. You guys remember her?
She looks so different without the paint.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So for example, for Koa here, let's see here. Let's hide this for now. So like I built a like a simplex puppet for Koa. Let's see here. Oh man,
those two models obviously have no relationship in model.
None.
Yeah, they have completely different topology and everything, and you're able to transfer it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't say it looks good.
But it gives you something to start with. I'm actually curious how the hell you do that.
Do you use that program? What's it called? Blitz
Simplex.
Simplex.
Blur's Simplex. They're open source Simplex. You can get it on Blur's GitHub if you want to compile it yourself. It's not too difficult. So here's all the shapes for Koa, and I got all their names and everything's good. So basically, you need to create a correspondence between this mesh and this mesh, which is basically me just taking this mesh and wrapping it to Koa's face. So generally, I'll put like a value here on the jaw drop, so like the mouth is open. So what I like to do a lot of times is take, this is the base mesh for Cot here, and I'll wrap that to Koa with Wrap Deformer. Usually just set to exclusive bind and surface is probably all you really need. Oh, well, you got to select two things. And then run that. So now I bound that with the mouth open so that like I don't get any weird mouth intersections through the transfer. So now I can close the mouth completely and everything's, attached properly. So you can see that every shape we use is driving the Cot mesh here.
Wait a minute. How the hell did you just do that?
I did. Hold on here. Let me undo it for you. We'll do it again.
What are those two meshes? Are you binding Koa to Koa?
No, I'm binding Cot to Koa.
How did you bind Cot to Koa?
I'll show you. So basically, snap Cot's mesh to Koa. With the mouth open, preferably. So
you're talking like manually. You're snapping it.
Yeah, well, I used Wrap.
Okay.
Like Wrap X or.
Okay. So use that.
So I use that first, right, just to get it into the shape of the thing. Then I load it on here and kind of massage, the vertices on here.
That mesh you have on right now is Cot's topology.
Yes, it's Cot's topology. Yeah.
Can you isolate that and see how that looks just by itself? That wrapped pretty well, considering the topology is completely different.
Like, you will be amazed. Like, if you work at like a large visual effects house, I remember one time at ILM, I was watching this video of how they set up a creature, and every place I've ever worked at will go to great lengths to try and transfer whatever they can onto something else, regardless of what it is. Right. So like I saw this like painstakingly, they took like a bird creature with a bird beak, and they're trying to wrap that onto a human head to copy all of the work they did on the bird beak to the next thing. And you're just like, why would you even do this? Like, there's no way it's going to work and look good. You're still going to have to clean everything up.
Can you select the mesh, though? Can I see how that wireframe looks?
That's
this guy?
Yeah, that's Cot's.
Yeah. So just to clarify for everyone that
let me turn on
uses, so he grabbed the Cot model, shrunk wrapped it to the volume of the old Koa model.
So that's Cot's head, which is that ball head that's on the end of the screen, just for anyone.
Yeah, so these guys are the same.
That geometry and deformed it, wrapped it around the model of Koa, the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's gonna. I'm assuming you're gonna do like a space base, like a wrap on it. So now when he moves the old blend shapes, they're going to be applied onto her, and then he could transfer that back onto the original
just to
model.
clarify, the girl head is character from Boyce and Hall, which is our previous short, and Chris did all the faces
on that as well.
All the facial expressions
on all of that movie.
All of them, and that's why he has them, and that's why he's using it.
Yep. Exactly. Like, work smarter, not harder. If you can.
This seems insane to me.
Yeah, it wrapped pretty well. Like that, I'm like, when you clicked on the head, I was like, was it the topology on Koa?
Yeah, it's pretty good. But like you'll see, the transfer's not going to be great. But it's a starting point, and like if you don't really know how the face is going to deform because it's such a a stylized character, this will just give you more information on how to make your next decisions on what to do. Because you'll be able to see it moving. It'll look probably pretty shitty, but there's all kinds of ways to clean that up pretty easily. And then as you're doing that, you'll start to get more of a feeling of what the shape should look like on this guy's head. So this is a good workflow for anybody that's like, if you have some shapes, copy them over to something else and see what happens. And I'll show you kind of how to do that.
Isn't that basically like the whole Ziva dynamics face stuff? It's essentially that, right? That face blend.
Yeah, I mean, they do the same thing, right? They're like, oh, let's try and fix everything we possibly can, or try to transfer everything that we possibly can,
Yeah.
to get so we don't have to like do everything all over again, right? Like, in some cases it's a fool's errand, right? And in some cases, yeah, it'll work. Like I remember doing a pitch at DD for the Jungle Book, and like our first task was to transfer a human's face onto a tiger. Like, and you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work, guys. And they're like, just do it anyway. And it's like, all right, it gives you something. I mean, it's not amazing, but if you can salvage a couple things out of it, I don't know, maybe it's worth it.
All right.
So let's see what this will look like.
So now you have COTS topology mesh, and then you are binding it to.
Yeah, so you're basically gonna select the mesh that you want to wrap, or the one that you want to be stuck to the other one, and then the source. And then if you go to deform wrap and open up that, I always grab exclusive bind and turn off surface fall off.
Turn off or turn on?
Turn it on. Turn it on. So it's like volume or fall off. So
okay.
This one hugs the surface more when it's binding. So and then when we click that, you should just get your cot mesh should be the only thing selected. And now if we close the jaw, we don't, now we can go basically in any pose on this guy. And
it'll follow along.
Yeah. And it won't have any kind of crinkling or vertices bound to the wrong part of the mouth.
So right now, the original model is what's actually deforming, and then the shrink wrap model is just shrunk. It's just wrapped on top.
It's just it's just doing whatever the other one's doing, right? So once we have that, basically what I would do is you need basically a UV blend shape tool. I use SE UV blend shape. You can buy it online. It's super cheap. I think it's like $20. Crazy cheap. Definitely worth it.
And what is that doing?
So it's binding this guy's UVs to this guy's UVs. They're the same, right? So ideally, you want the UVs to be as similar as possible to do this transfer. The good thing about this is it can be completely topologically independent if you want it to be. So when I say that, I mean, for example, I could basically, depending on what I'm transferring to, like you can world space transfer the UVs onto a mesh and then run the wrap. And it will, for all intents and purposes, work. But the main thing is that you have the same UVs on both meshes.
Okay.
Topology does not matter, just the UVs matter. So if I select this guy, the SE UV blend shape editor, you just say create, and you create that on the head, your destination head. I spell transfer. That's pretty close. And now what we want to do is find the target that we're pulling all the data from, which is this cot head. So we're going to say add target, and it's going to give you the two UV maps, or if you have more than one UV map, you can select which one you want. And then we're just going to say okay. And that's pretty much it. So when we look at the UV,
The reason why you want the UVs to match is why.
that's how it's transferring the data. So the closer that the UVs match, the cleaner it will be.
Yeah, because it doesn't look at the mesh or the
But
model
Yeah.
logic.
what transfer? Because isn't the wrap already transferred?
No, the wrap is basically just giving you the deltas from Koa onto this other mesh, right? So
I get it, because now you have to transfer it back onto the old model.
yeah,
So by
exactly.
doing it UV based, I see. I got it.
So as you can see, like our UVs are the same, so that's good. So now if we take this guy and turn on keep offset and this poly surface here, this is the mesh, and you can drive this past one. So like if the scales are different or you're getting too much motion coming from this into this, you can scale the amount of motion coming through. So right now we'll just go with
The
one.
values you're messing with is the UV transfer tool you're doing.
Yeah.
That tool right there. Okay.
Yeah, so you can see maybe too much, right? So we can come back here and we can lessen this. We can maybe make this 0.5. You know, like I said, it's not going to be amazing, but it's something.
It's doing something. Yeah, but, well, now it just becomes a matter of cleaning that up.
Yeah, yeah. So but some things you might find work pretty well. Ultimately, like the eyes won't work very well. Let's see, mouth shrug.
So you have like
That's not too bad.
a chain
Not too bad.
connection. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like since you have this chain connection, like you said, you can add other deformers to this to clean this up, right? Like, what if we added Delta Mush, right? And then let's see here. Let's turn on. Let's go to that mouth shrug. Boop. And let's go to our Delta Mush.
You always talk about Delta Mush. I still haven't wrapped my head around it, no pun intended, fully.
It's very similar to
It's like a relax, right?
it's kind of like a relax, but it's always trying to push the vertices to whatever frame you applied the mesh, you applied Delta Mush on. So it's the neutral. So it's a lot like if you were in Mudbox using the smooth, like the smooth brush with effects all layers turned off kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of similar to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So now with that on there, we can see.
That looks way better already.
Yeah, right. Like you can. So Delta Mush off, on.
Oh, it does a huge difference too.
Yeah, yeah. So like you can kind of come in here. Like I do this all the time for any kind of face transfer. Same type of deal. You can add other deformers to this. Um, so it's
Gives you a really nice, like you said, a very nice starting point.
yeah, it also gives you like a really quick way of seeing things move around, which a lot of times as an artist, like you kind of need to see it in action before you
Yeah,
know what your next step is.
especially with these guys because they don't look like anything else.
Yeah, they're weird, right? Like it's
So they are weird. You don't have a reference point.
no.
Yeah.
So it's really not that bad, really, when you think about what we're looking at. Like, the eyes won't ever work properly, but
They don't work properly, but they still don't look as terrible as you would think.
yeah. Well, the other thing that's even though they're not working properly, you're still copying over the motion of the shape, which is important. So then it's just a matter of putting everything back to where it was, and you're kind of getting all that extra motion for free.
Because more than just the eyes are moving, the whole
exactly,
everything,
yeah,
all the vertices
exactly.
are shifting. Yeah.
So, like you can see, you're getting all this extra stuff that you probably don't need to clean up. You probably just need to clean up this junk here,
Yeah.
right? And that's pretty easy to clean up, and I can show you kind of how I would go about that.
That would be nice to see.
So there's multiple ways we can do it. So, we can kind of go through here and just kind of check everything out. Let's see what else we got. We got mouth pucker. It's a starting point.
The fucker you ended up with was really nice.
Oh, the one that's in the current one?
Yeah, the one that after you, whatever you have now.
Yeah. So let's see. So basically, if you're using a tool like Simplex, we can now bake this guy into his own Simplex system from this setup. You want to make sure this guy is zeroed out, because wherever you put him, that's going to be his base location. So let's just zero him out. Why are you zeroed out? Did I really delete history for him all the way over there? Well, whatever. That'll be fine. So basically in Simplex, we have an option called export other right here.
Some people are saying like, wow, like magic and very nice. So people are digging it.
Oh, cool. So if I go export other, basically what it's going to... Oh, shit, I better select this guy. It's basically anything that's being driven by the system, by Koa, it's basically going to recreate this whole setup onto this guy and get rid of the UV shape and bake basically all the deltas into this. So with this selected, if you go to export other, we'll just put it in here. And it writes out its own file for this. All right, we're done. So now let me grab. Let's just go file new. Don't save. Where is it? There we go. If we go to file import now and select the transfer that we just did, hit open, it stores the mesh in there as well in the file. So now we have...
Oh, now it has its own system.
Yep. Now everything's baked out, and now you can start cleaning these up and adding them back into this system, right? So now we're basically back to something that's workable, without all those dependencies of, the wrap, the blend shape, all that stuff. So let me show you how I might start cleaning this up. Let's go back to this scene just for examples. I might, let's find something bad. Let's go to, actually, why don't we go to, let's turn off the Delta Mush for this.
Now, do you have to clean it up before you bake it out, or
No.
Clean it up after?
Yeah, well, I try to clean it up with whatever I can here with like deformers or whatever. But then, after I'll go clean up every shape.
Okay.
Or if they look bad. If they look good, then we're fine. But usually they'll require some sort of cleanup. So let's go find. Let's see. Maybe let's do funneler. Mouth funnel. So doesn't look so good, right? So what we can do is duplicate him. So now we have these two. So now I'm going to blend shape this one into this one because I want to use this shape to clean up this shape. So if we open up this, oh fuck yeah, transforms, whatever, it's fine.
It shrunk really tiny on top of it. I thought it zoomed out really far away.
No, it's like nope, just got smaller. So it's just make sure your stuff's frozen out. My bad. So then I'll take, like if you use Mudbox a lot, you probably use that smooth with all layers turned off or whatever it is
Yeah.
in Mudbox. So this is basically the same thing. So now I can kind of just come in here and, we can just grab this and then we can start.
What brush are you using?
Smooth target.
Ah, okay.
So it kind of does the same thing as, what you would do in Mudbox.
Okay.
So it's basically pulling in that more of that shape directly from.
That looks so
Look,
scary.
I know it looks horrible. So we'll say like, okay, that's cool. I like that. So there we go. There's our beautiful shape there. So let's duplicate that. And then let's zero out the base. And what we're going to do is basically the same thing, but the opposite direction. So now I'm going to grab this guy, blend shape this into this guy, and now do the same thing, but trying to clean up more of the volumes. So this will put everything back kind of in the right spot.
Very clever.
Plus, it also looks like lips, and this guy doesn't really have lips, right?
No, he
So,
doesn't have lips. Just has
so as you're kind of like blending back to the original guy, you're going to start getting a little bit of a cleaner result. And then you can kind of just come in here and start adjusting the funneler to look like, whatever you want, really.
You use most of you correct most of this in Maya, right? It's
I only work in Maya. I do not use Mudbox or ZBrush.
Which makes sense because you have all the tools here.
Exactly. I mean, and ultimately we have more tools here in Maya than we do in any of the other packages, right? Like we have deformers, we have clusters, we have all these different tools in the toolbox to make shapes with. We have a timeline. Like Mudbox doesn't have a timeline. So like say you're working on Thanos, right? And you've got to have in-betweens for all the shapes. You're basically sculpting the motion out here on the timeline, from 0 to 10 or whatever it is, right? And you might be using blend shapes, clusters, all kinds of different deformers at the same time. And then you're baking those out into an in-between sequence. So obviously there's things you can do in Mudbox and ZBrush as well. I just find that just doing everything in Maya is, I basically have everything I need.
It seems like it would be more work because if you were to export it, you
Yeah, I mean,
have to
here in Simplex there is like a let's see here. You can do import OBJ folder,
Mhm.
which basically means like if you take all these shapes and extract them and put them into a folder, and say you're in Mudbox, you can import the OBJ into Mudbox, change it, put it back in that folder, and then when you're done, you can say import OBJ folder, and it will go through that whole folder and re-update all of your shapes in here with any of the changes that you made outside of Maya. So you can definitely work any way you want. Like I see great things come out of Maya, out of ZBrush and Mudbox. I mean, most of my friends use Mudbox for so much stuff. I've just never really. I've always just liked staying in Maya personally. Now, if Maya didn't have like all these tools, then yeah, I'd probably look for, a different way to do it. But that's just me, I guess. There's no right or wrong way to do it, at least in my opinion. It's like do whatever you got to do to make it look good.
Yeah.
So whatever you're most comfortable with, it's fine. You can get good results out of everything. Any one of those packages. So let's see. So we went from to this pretty quickly. Like, I mean, it's not going to win any awards, but like it's
that's very fast though, and you're probably going much slower because you're explaining all this stuff to us. So
yeah. So like you can do a lot pretty quickly with a workflow kind of like this. So I always say it's like if you've got like a few minutes to see what the outcome is of a transfer process, then you could save yourself some time later on. So it all depends. I always find that finding ways of transferring data cleanly is work smarter, not harder. If you don't have to like start, if you don't have, I mean, obviously, if I didn't have Koa, not much I can do. But since I do,
did you have to do Koa from scratch, or you were able to transfer?
No, I did Koa from scratch.
Oh,
okay. So it just depends, right? Like, I'm probably not going to use, I could probably have transferred it from some data that I have somewhere online. I mean, on my computer, but it's fine either way. But this is one way that I think people should know about this way of working, because I think it'll help people in the long run if they kind of have a little bit more knowledge on this type of approach. And if you're working on a facial team in visual effects, like you're going to be doing stuff like this all day long, like literally all day long. So you end up kind of just getting used to working kind of, basically doing whatever you need to do to kind of make it easier. But whenever I see someone not working this way, it always takes them 4 times as long. And, I'm like, why don't you just do this? And they're like, oh, well, that's actually a pretty smart way to do it.
It's very smart. Miguel, you see that comment? What do you think of that comment?
What comment? Is it good? Is it nice? Or is it not nice?
There are a lot of captured solutions for facial animation. Blend shapes seem outdated. The artists create awesome animations using blend shapes. I mean, outdated, but that's what everybody uses.
Yeah, everyone uses blend. All characters have blend shapes.
Yeah,
every single character.
Yeah, all the characters have blend shapes. They all have facial puppets that were built by an artist. The things that you see online are not necessarily the reality of what those workflows look like.
Yeah, they're just promotional videos.
Yeah,
pretty much. Like they don't tell you that a team of 10 facial modelers cleaned up all that data before they put it in that video.
Yeah, right? I think there isn't a high-end studio out there that doesn't have a facial team.
No, like, and it's always, the data is always almost unusable, right? So it requires artists to interface with the 4D capture data if you're using things like DI4D or some other form of 4K 4D capture. The other things that you're not going to know about that they tell you about is, they've got all these machine learning processes to try and clean it up as well. Because when you get that 4K data, it is hard to stabilize and it is hard to look good transferring that or retargeting that onto another face. So there are artists like painstakingly cleaning all that stuff up. And then, the studio will release this demo going, look, we clicked 2 buttons and we got this 4D capture and it looks amazing. And it's like, dude, that is not really how the process works.
Yeah, Miguel and I were talking about that just yesterday, like how a lot of stuff is misrepresented.
Because
Yeah.
companies can sell a technology that only they have, but to say, hey, we just have really talented artists that could be poached by another company is
Yeah.
too scary.
Yeah. So in general, companies won't ever say, "Hey, look, we got this looking really good because our team is awesome. Our
Yeah,
artists
they
are
always want
really
to sell
great."
it on a technology.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's how they get new clients, right? So,
yes, that's how
you
it
know,
works.
here is a really hilarious example of something like this. When I was working on Deadpool on Colossus, when we were done shot modeling every single shot, I go by my boss's desk and he is shot modeling a muscle system into a shot so we could say we used a muscle system.
Yeah.
So like he's like sitting there trying to like get the muscles inside Colossus's arms so we can do a like how-to video with a muscle system in there saying we developed this amazing muscle system that we don't have. Right? Like so you can't always think that like everything you see on the internet is like a magic bullet, because it's not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more times than not, like as soon as the 4D capture place that's processing the data, like dude, they don't do a very good job. Let me
Yeah,
tell you.
there was a video by Vox about how green screen is dead. This is why Tran and I were talking about this. How LED stages have completely replaced green screen. And anyway, they did a follow up video, and the guy said, "Well, it's come to my attention since we did that last video that that's very much misrepresented, and a lot of the work that is done with the LED screens are actually rotoed out and replaced with traditional pre-rendered scenes."
Yeah.
So that's the big
Yeah.
hidden secret. You know what I mean?
Miguel and I here, we have a lot of friends that, because that's where we come from, that work in the industry, and they mention things. I don't want to say what it is.
But that it's all replaced.
But we know that it is
Yeah.
fake. Like for a fact, we know it's fake.
Those
So,
stages are to get the clients to
yeah,
come.
because like what Miguel is saying, it's like, look, other visual effects companies are competing against other companies, and this company has to say they have something another company doesn't have, because no one owns the artist, right? Artists can, like if you look at an artist resume, they could be at ILM or Weta or at MPC and at every single company. So then what makes that company special?
But you know what the funny thing is? Back in the days, ILM would hype up their artists, right? That's why everybody knows Phil Tippett's name, and they know Lauren Peterson, and they know all of these guys, is because that's what they would showcase as their assets, and that's why they became like rock stars. They don't do that anymore, and I think they should, because by overhyping the technology, you're making everybody think that it's just buttons being pressed and not actual artists.
And then that's the whole thing that is probably very frustrating for artists. It's like, you just kind of erased our work and said a button did it.
Yeah, and the other funny thing about that is that clients these days are like, oh, we can cut the artists out. You can do this with a button. Oh, that means it's going to be cheaper for me. Perfect.
Yeah, and then they think that it should.
And then the studio's burning the midnight oil on both ends, trying to like get it done in the time they said they could get it done in, and they're just burning artists out, cleaning stuff up. Like, ugh, it's rough.
One of the questions is it because the LED walls still give moire patterns? I think it's a combination of that, and I just think that sometimes it just doesn't look good. Like just straight up, just doesn't look good.
What doesn't look good is the Obi-Wan series.
Some of the stuff, yeah. There's a
like
couple of shots.
You can see where the set stops and the wall begins. Like
There's a
they
couple
didn't.
of shots in Obi-Wan that are really like shocking to me. Like some of the animation on some of those spaceships feels like
It
an
was like
intro to
a
Maya scene from a
Mm-hmm.
Gnomon.
yeah, not like a previs. Like that wasn't even a serious effort.
It just feels like this is the way the ship moves. It just goes, and it just stops, and it's like, wait, there's no slowing down. There's nothing. It just feels like they just translated it. They put 3 keyframes, 1, 2, and then 3. It's terrible.
Yeah, so I don't know. Obi-Wan was the first one where I'm like, oh, is that the wall? Ugh,
Yeah.
oh, it looks terrible. But I heard they also didn't have a lot of time on that one, so.
I felt it on The Mandalorian. I always feel that they're like at a Sears photo booth, like with the, you know what I'm talking about, with the waterfall in the background.
Yeah,
I always kind of feel that.
Yeah.
it's hilarious. Yeah, it's just can't believe what you see all the time.
Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors.
Andor
Um,
might use it, but Andor just looks freaking incredible.
It does. I
Yeah.
like that one a lot. Hopefully, some of the new ones will be good.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they won't end up like Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Like, I think that guy forgot how to fight.
Yeah, I think he forgot a lot of things.
Ugh, poor Boba Fett.
Or Boba Fett.
Could have been so cool,
Yeah.
but no. Okay, so what should we talk about next? Is there anything? Does anybody have any questions or?
Can you show the final? Like,
Yeah.
how? Because I don't think we showed it.
Let's do it. Let's open up. Well, they're not final yet. I know I said I was going to deliver these to you today, but I've been working a lot of OT. Let's see here. Oh, let me see if I have the Smile OBJ you sent me. Did I put it in here? Give me a list. OBJs. No, I don't think I have it in here. Nope. Wait, there's an OBJ piece. Nope, fail. Okay, let's take a look at what we got now. So, let's open up my attribute editor here. Where is my... Nope.
So I think that someone just asked a question. I think that's what Chris just showed. So I would just go back and watch the recording.
Yeah.
That's basically what he just showed.
Oh, there we go. What was the question?
Basically, how did you just do what you just did?
What's the quickest
Oh,
way to automatically translate blend shape skinny data?
Yeah.
I think that's what you just did. Yeah.
okay, gotcha. Let's go here. Preview textures. Come on, normal maps.
That takes so long to load. I have some problems with that. I have to like restart all the time.
I like it when it like displays the map. Like it looks good right now, and then like 10 minutes later, it displays it at such low quality. You have to like rejiggle the handle. Like, it's so weird. All right, so I always would recommend, like, if the person that made the model, if they have like a normal map of the details that you can't see, super helpful to get that, so you know what everything is. So we've got like our little brow furrow there. Let's see, inner and outer brows. Got some cheek squint. Eyes look down. They look in, out, look up. It's hard to tell because his eyes are black and they're not attached to the lids yet. So, we have a little stretching to fix on this.
Yeah.
Just a little squint. Ooh. Then we got a mouth dimpler.
That's a cute shape.
Yeah.
Cute was the name of the game. I made some that weren't so cute. I got notes. And you're always going to get notes. So, just know that no matter what you do, you're always going to get notes from someone.
You didn't get a lot of notes from us, though. You got one.
No, you guys are actually generally pretty easy. But, don't let notes ruin your day. Because they're going to happen. Even if you make, the most amazing thing ever, you're still going to get notes. There'll be some supervisor in your dailies meeting that, thinks that their only job there to justify their position is giving notes, regardless of what it looks like. So, just be used to getting them, no matter how dumb they are, just kind of okay, yep. This is one that I had lots of notes on, the smile. This is still the old one too. So, Tran was nice enough to give me a little sculpt over. We got a mouth stretchy stretch. His upper lip.
I like it when you start seeing his teeth.
Look at those little beautiful teethy teeth. Yeah, they're awesome. I don't know how you guys think of this stuff. Looks so good. Little sneer. Mouth shrug. Which is basically just a chin raiser, the chin raiser upper lip. The actual shapes for this are they're fax based, but they don't have the fax names. So you have to kind of go in there and take the AR kit shapes, which are what do I have?
The AR face shapes basically are 52 shapes, right? That you need to create in order to drive all the facial capture stuff so you can use your iPhone to record all the facial expressions. That's what we did on the Voice in the Hollow as well.
Now, when you're usually doing not for us, how many shapes do you usually have to do?
It could be anywhere from 100 to 1,000. It depends on, if it was film, you'd be on a puppet for the whole show, right? So, if you were working on Thanos, almost you're probably making updates on that guy's face for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? More notes come in. It's good for a while, then notes come in. And then, you got to go back to, whatever those are, right? So it really depends on how much money they have, how much time they have, all that kind of stuff will come into play. But on average, I would say you probably need, a solid 6 to 8 weeks to get something out there that's oh, cool.
Someone says you love Thanos. He worked on Thanos.
Yeah,
so
he brought Thanos to life.
Yeah.
Thanos and Red Skull and
you worked on Thanos the whole entire show, right? You kept having
for the most part, yeah. Him, the Hulk, and Red Skull, and Ebony, basically the Black Order guys. So when it was me and my lead on Thanos, and then depending on what the needs are for the other characters, you might all right, let me go over here and work on this some more, and then go back to this, and then you kind of flop around a lot. But most of the work on Thanos was pretty intensive for 2 years.
Must it, you ever get tired of that? After
Yep. Yep. A lot of times you're like, fuck, I just don't want to do it anymore. Here. Pick
So
this up.
these are the 52 shapes.
Yeah, so these are kind of like the AR kits. So we're basically trying to match, whatever the, something similar to what you see here, in these shapes. There's 52, but if you combine them, there's half, right? And then we can split those out into two. So here I only modeled half of them. So when I get to giving the shapes over, delivering them, all I have to do is take my simplex. Let's see if I have it set up. And I can do export split. And then let's just call this split test.
Someone says they wouldn't be happy with the supervisor if they got notes on a character for 2 years. That's the industry, though.
That is the industry. Like,
you gotta do something. That's where you gotta do something you kind of like.
I remember when there used to be a tip that we would get the VFX supervisor, animation supervisor, rigging supervisor, basically everyone down the fucking pipe standing behind your desk and giving criticism on everything you did. At the end of that 30, 40 minutes, you'd want to go smoke a cigarette. Even if you didn't smoke a cigarette, you just wanted to cry.
oh, dude, it's rough. And they'll all come by your desk at the same time and like huddle around you.
Just beat you the fuck up, and then you're just like,
The thing is,
There's-
I also think like the notes. I've seen stuff just get worse.
Oh yeah, like a lot of
Version
times,
3
yeah.
was good, and then version 100, and that was really normal, right? I'd see like, oh, we're
Yeah.
on version 200 now. Okay, so you've had 200 iterations, and it looks worse.
Yep. And then, after those 200 iterations, they're like, let's just go back to number 1. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, they realize they drove it down a hole, and they go, yeah, let's go back to
1 looks good.
yeah.
You're like, what?
Wait,
That was like 3 months ago.
yeah.
Quick question up here that we missed. So with the shape setup, you use joints as well for the jaw and eyes, etc.
Nope.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not-
Is there
not
a jaw
yet.
joint?
Yeah, there will be. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You create joints at the end after blend shapes.
Yes. He won't. Chris won't. Our rigger will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as you add joints, once you add a skin cluster, then, whatever shapes are being driven by those joints need to be inverted through the skin cluster in order for them to work properly. So, something to be aware of if you're ever connecting shapes to joints. You have to actually invert the jaw through the skinning matrix in order for it to work properly. So
up, yeah.
yeah, it'll just blow up. Like it won't work right. Now after I split them, I now have all the 52 shapes, but I only had to sculpt half of them. Once again, work smarter, not harder. If there's any way to do your job easier, do that. Unless you like, doing it the hard way. Some people like that.
Yeah, but you can't, because when you work at a place, you have deadlines. So
Yeah.
if one person can do it in 1 week and you're in 2 weeks, you have to figure out how to do it in 1 week.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But luckily you'll be working with people that are super nice, and they'll share their tricks with you.
That's a nice thing.
And you'll get better. You know? I think that's how we all kind of learn, right? Like I still remember the first time I did blend shapes, like after like going through so many rounds of notes, they're just like the final note from Adam was, "Can we just get better shapes?" And you're just like, oh, you feel so defeated. And then you're like, oh, god damn it. And then the next one, you do a better job, but you think you do a horrible job because the first one was so bad. Like my second one, I still remember the rigging supervisor was like, "Hey, do you know who did these shapes?" And I'm like, "Oh fuck, here we go. It was me. How bad are they?" They're like, "Oh no, they really like them." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's a pleasant surprise."
Someone is asking, what is the name of the plugin with the orange shelf?
Fuck, I don't know. Oh, Maya X? I don't even remember why I got it. Why did I get this?
It's got pretty buttons, of course.
I think I was using, like, they had some tool in here to help me with set cameras or something like that. And I was like, oh, cool. And, like, I installed it, and I honestly have never used it for anything. It just takes up, like, screen space. Everybody that I work with is like, why do you have that? I'm like, I don't remember anymore. But I think it might have been for like spraying like objects on a ground plane or something like that. I think it's hard to remember. It was some broccoli task that I had that I thought this would be like.
I like how you call it broccoli.
Ugh, broccoli. That's the secret of VFX.
He
You've
calls
got
any like redundant task broccoli.
Yeah. So like anything really boring, draining, meticulous,
chopping wood.
chopping wood. We call it chopping wood, and you call it eating broccoli.
So Bob R says, grateful that you're sharing your tricks today, Chris.
I think it's a real
and he
treat.
likes the buttons.
Yeah.
As well. He says they're very sophisticated.
Well,
I think it's a huge treat to get Chris to come in because he's got a crazy amount of experience. He is one of the best in the industry. And I can say that very confidently. And it is what Miguel was saying. It's like a dark art. It's a black art. No one really knows about it. So you have someone who's one of the best coming in saying, this is how I do it. And I don't think you can find that information very easily anywhere else.
Chris is definitely Slytherin.
Yeah, you can't. It's crazy how much information is not online about facial modeling. And luckily next week, your other guy, that guy's brilliant. So
Shragator.
Yeah, Shraga.
Shraga is. I wanted you guys both to get on at the same time, just because. Just so you guys could like
meet.
Yeah.
What is your official title when you're doing the facial stuff? It doesn't fall under rigging, right?
No, senior facial modeler. So you're more rigging is a little bit of it. There's a little bit of rigging in there. But ultimately I would say you're more between modeling and animation. Rigging just hooks stuff up and gives it to animators. But then we'll have to go sit down with animators and like, what shapes are you using? What's broken? What doesn't look good in your animation? And a lot of times, facial modelers will actually final out anim shots. So anim will take it as far as they can, and then after like 300 revs of it not looking good, they'll be like, facial team, can you just make this look better? And then we final out the shots. So that could be reanimating parts of the shot. It could be just cleaning up the expressions that they have in the shot. It could be shot modeling. It could be going back to the puppet and making changes there and having those changes, ripple through the anim scene. It just depends on what the problems are and how to make it look right. Because a lot of times animators, at least where I've worked, are not fax savvy. So like they're not really able to look at like a plate or a performance from an actor taken on screen and breaking that down into the individual fact shapes that are being used to create those facial expressions. So a lot of times, when you kind of run into an animator that's struggling, it's mostly because of that. So you kind of got to go in there and kind of hang out with the animator a little bit and teach them how to debug an anim scene, to make sure that they have, one, they're using the right shapes, and two, that there aren't any broken shapes or combos that don't work. Because it could be any of those, right? So, but a lot of times it's animators tend to use too many shapes. You give them all these controls, bells and whistles, and they want to use all of them, right? Like I get notes all the time from anim where it's like, I want to use these 6 shapes all at once. And, my first question is, are you going to use all these shapes at once? And most of the time they're just saying that because they turned on the 6 shapes and it doesn't look good. But it has no correlation to the performance that they're crafting.
And they're creating a problem.
Pretty much, right? It's
They don't
like,
need to solve. Yeah.
so a lot of times it's like, okay, well, you don't need this turned on. You don't need this turned on. You have too many things over here turned on that are making this look bad. The reference is only, it's a guy smiling, right? And they might have like 10 shapes turned on. And it's like, you only need one, guys. One.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's going in and sort of debugging that stuff. Plus, a lot of times, visual effects houses will have their own sort of blend shape solver that takes, the stereo head cams that you always see in those videos where it's like the avatar guys where there's a camera right here and right here on their helmet, and they're like got all the dots on their face and they're tracking the dots. So like the cameras are recording, they're basically tracking 3 types of data, right? Like data that can be seen only by one camera, or data that can be seen by both cameras. And then anything that's in between, an artist has to go in and manually track in 2D, like the lip line. You know, but the solver basically then looks at that and goes, I'm smart. Let me turn on all those controls in the blend shape puppet to look like that. But it looks like that. You initially you look at it and you're like, oh, it's pretty close. And then you get in there and you look at what the solver's doing and you're like, oh, fuck, wait a minute. The solver's using all the wrong shapes. So like you might have a smile, and you know the solver might, instead of just using the smile shape, it might use like a lip stretcher with lip corner up to kind of make it look like a smile, but it's not actually using the smile. And then you're like, oh, that's why it doesn't look right.
Sure.
Break connections, rekey. Oh, there we go. So that kind of knowledge is, you really have to be probably more of a facial modeler than an animator to really go in there and like kind of know that the solver is just not working properly. But it all takes time, right? Like you just have to be on the job for a while before everything clicks. Um, you know, so as long as you've got a great team that you're working with that you can always ask questions, and generally I think we all have the same goal at the end of the day, which is to make these shots look good. And a lot of times that requires lots of collaboration. So it's always good if an animator's like, hey, I'm dialing this in and it looks kind of weird, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's broken, or oh no, that's what it's supposed to look like. So but without that collaboration, it's hard to get anything done,
Totally.
because you're kind of just flying blind through the process. So I'm always a very big advocate for, the departments shouldn't feel separated. They should feel like one department. It's just everybody's got their own expertise within, that department or within that team.
Someone just asked you a question. Besides Simplex, are there any other plugins that you use in your workflow?
Off the shelf plugins. Well, the SEUV blend shape is off the shelf. I use that.
What is it? SEUV?
Yeah, SEUV blend shape.
Okay.
Super cheap. Highly recommend. A lot of the scripts I have are like either my friends wrote it or I did. So, but if you're looking for something like a blend shape solver like Simplex, there's also a couple other ones. You can grab Shapes for Maya. I think, Miguel, you use that one, right?
Which one? Sorry, I was just trying to find the SEUV blend shape.
Shapes for Maya.
Shapes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't use it. I downloaded it. You and Schrager are the ones doing all the shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Shapes for Maya is another one. It's not as the main, like, if you were working at like a large visual effects house, you're probably going to run into something that looks like Simplex, where you have two window panes. One window pane is the base shapes that the animators interact with, and then the other pane, which is just the combos that only you see. So a lot of the main houses will have something similar to this. Shapes is a little different. It's a little bit more Maya centric, and it feels a little bit more like Mudbox's layer stack. It's awesome. I've used it many times. It's very affordable. Obviously Simplex is free if you can compile it, and everything on the GitHub is updated and correct. But kind of a pain to compile, I've found. And then there's BCS for Maya.
What's that?
It's just like this. Like, it's been around forever. I don't know how much. I wonder how much it is.
At the end, though, after it passes through, so you do like these shapes, and then animators animate, and then you still have to shop model sometimes too, don't you? Quite a bit.
Oh yes, quite a bit. And that comes down to scheduling, right? Like, if they've only got 2 weeks for you to make like all these shapes, there's really only so much you can do, right? Like, you do the best you can, and then hope that like anything you can't do, we'll shop fix it.
Yeah, but doesn't shop modeling just take longer to do?
It takes. It depends on what it is, right? Like, I think my biggest thing with shop modeling that I don't like about shop modeling on the face is, as soon as you start having to go in and have an artist do stuff like eh, immediately you can kind of take the model, the character off model.
Yes, it doesn't look like the face anymore.
Yeah, so it's like I always
Character.
try to stick with using the puppet in a way that will help me shot sculpt shapes. So like, if I need a smile shape, I might use the puppet, have kick out the smile, and do pretty much what you saw me do earlier, which is like, say this is the thing, and they're like, we want it to smile more, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I have to shot model that. I might come in here. Oh wait, did I bone this already? Hold on, let's do this. Let's grab a smile first. Where are you, smile? There we go. So say that's our smile. And say we went, let's go, okay, let's just zero that. And then let's just say, for some all intensive purposes, like, they're like, I'm trying to get him to look good. And so this is what you get, and you can either shot model this to look more like a smile, or you can take the smile, if there's an approved smile in the puppet, and you can blend into this guy. So you could find that frame where that smile is, dupe that out, and then basically do pretty much the same thing that I did earlier, which is I can now come in here and use the smooth target brush to blend that edit back in. Let's see here. Where's the... Here. here. Oh, surface, good. Oh, right, display. Dump, dump, dump. All right, there we go. So we can kind of come in here and then start to kind of
blend it back into the original expression.
Yeah, so you find ways of doing that, right?
Yeah. I had to do that stuff on Koa. So, sometimes the facial capture that when using it works, but then we had to get animators to fix the animation.
Mm-hmm.
And the animators did a really good job.
They would get a little kink or something.
Yeah, but then you would get a crumple in the face, like literally it would just pinch. So I took your blend shapes, separated all of them, and then blended it back. It was not fun to do all that work, but yeah.
But that's kind of unfortunately that's sometimes that's what you got to do.
But no, it's just interesting because I just want to ask how you did it. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's a similar concept.
Yep,
So,
very similar.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's awesome. Did you want to show anything else, or
how long is this thing?
Well, we're basically almost done, but I think we should show some of the other things.
Perfect, because I have to go to the bathroom really bad right now.
Okay.
Oh wait, was that out loud? Did everybody?
Make sure
Does that mean are you gonna leave or are you just gonna go?
No, I'm not gonna leave. I'll just go come back and then.
Don't forget to mute your mic.
Don't forget to mute your mic if you're gonna drop a deuce.
Wouldn't that be classic?
That'd be amazing.
No, why don't you guys continue? I'll come back. I want to. How much longer is the whole thing?
A few more minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be right back. Like 2 minutes. Wait, can you?
Yeah,
we're not sharing anymore.
No, you're not sharing anymore.
Okay, perfect. Great.
So you just mute your mic or something. So this week the other thing we did is we got this guy. I've been working on getting this guy ready for shots. So we had a beautiful model done by Vague Sadan, who's a Ukrainian artist that we've been wanting to work with him for a while. Mutually, he's been wanting to work with us and us with him. He actually reached out to us when we had finished the Ningyo and said he wanted to do something together. Voice in the Hollow wasn't the right fit because there wasn't any demons or anything like that. But on this one, we thought he was the first person I thought of. So he did the sculpt, but then we had to get it ready for production. So I just went in and retopologized this whole monstrosity and just get it ready for rigging, which was just the most painful freaking thing. And keeping it fairly high, because remember, we're doing this in Unreal. We can't have displacements if we're gonna have
normal maps
on there. No, wait, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's not what I was saying. So we can't do displacement, so we have to get it all with normal maps. So all the stuff that's breaking the silhouette has to be in the actual geometry. So kept it fairly high. But yeah, it's gonna be cool. Like everything is modeled in there. It's a monstrosity. It was an absolute nightmare to do, but it's done. So that's ready. It's all UV'd and ready to go.
What's the poly count on that guy?
I'll tell you right now.
It's pretty high.
It's high. Yeah.
It's 700,000.
700,000 polygons.
Which is not unheard of for a creature to be really, really high in poly count because it just it might be a little bit denser than what we would normally do, but again, we don't have displacement maps. But I think even then, it's not considered that bad.
Oh, this definitely wouldn't be this high if it was displacement. And then here's our UVs for now. So I might break this up into more pieces, the body here.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to run a check, just throw some maps on it, see how sharp the resolution is.
Yeah. But so these will all be 4K maps. So each side of the wing is a 4K. Some of these things are very small. They feel like they're taking up.
I think it might need more resolution.
Yeah, and that's fine, but at
Yeah.
least it's laid out.
Yeah, it's laid out and it's all cut up, and it's just restacking the stuff.
Yeah. So all the legs, all the head pieces, it's a nightmare. And I finished it up, and then I looked at the eyes, and I was like, you know what? I think I could make them better. So I went back in and I redid the face again because I wanted it to feel very smooth, even at no smoothness. So the eyes,
Yeah, because
yeah, the eyes still had a polygonal look to them, but here they hold up pretty well. And if you get really close, then we will have to smooth it, but that's fine. We'll just have a few shots like that, but you could really see the scale difference between these guys and the moths. So these guys will have fur applied to them to make them feel more mothy, but you could see they are terrifying creatures. And this is a monster movie at its not at its heart. I guess there's more to it than just a monster movie, but these guys are gonna get eaten by these guys. Not these two guys necessarily, but or maybe they will. But the moths are like the real predators trying to eat this colony of characters. So this is our Mayo character. This is our Cot character. Cot is our mage, so he's like a little stuttering wizard, and then this is his best friend, who's just a weirdo. And we showed you guys what they look like, early tests of them just running around without the facial expressions, but you could see they look pretty great.
we're using Unreal. So there's a question here: are you guys using Arnold to render the project?
It's
No.
all Unreal. Everything we do is Unreal.
Yeah.
So this is all in Unreal. The fur, everything is Unreal, which is pretty cool. This is using the path tracer, which really took it to the next level in terms of
The lighting,
look of it. Yeah.
like I'm in love with Path Tracer.
Yeah, it's really a game changer.
Yeah.
So that's that. I'm pretty happy with the scale. I could just imagine these guys getting chased by this big fucking horrible thing and having some fur on it. I have to make some tweaks on the wings to get them to be able to fold back.
Yeah, because when you rotate them,
Yeah.
they're all like crashing into the body.
So I might have to extend this piece a bit. I don't know. I got to look and see. But that's a pain in the ass. But yeah, so that guy's ready. And then Tran, do you want to show what you've been working on?
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
I just think it's going to be so much fun to see these guys fighting off these fucking giant moths. It's going to be so cool.
So whenever I look at him, he kind of makes me laugh. So I finished sculpting the character and I brought him in, and I made his clothing. The part of the thing is, well, I think he looks really funny. He's really.
So he's a professor.
Yeah.
He's not finished yet because he's missing he's supposed to be missing an arm.
Yes.
But initially we do it. Tran did symmetrically because we might use his body for the other characters. So
yeah. So we can reuse his body, like Miguel said. And then the other thing is, I do, in order for the clothing to be, kind of figured out, I have to do a lot of tests on simulation, and there's a lot of failed tests. This one is not a failed test, but then I'll play it. Let's see, let's play real time.
Well, then, by the way, I just want to say thanks to Bobby for all of this. So he read the article, The Voice in the Hollow on 3D World. That's awesome. Thank you. So I just totally didn't even read some of these. So yeah.
Nope. What happened here? That's not playing. There we are. This loop button's not working. So it goes through. So I make the clothing and get it to how I want it to look. And then I test out the simulation. And after multiple iterations, I'll finally have something that looks the way I want it to look and actually functions. The run is a pretty important one because it pushes the cloth through a lot of stress. And then just stationary ones like this one.
That is so awesome.
What I do want, I'm looking for, I don't know if you can see it, but his hat kind of bounces around, which I think is kind of funny.
Because we want these guys to look totally like serious and committed, but they look super goofy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
he is definitely grumpy for sure.
he is very grumpy and super serious, but his clothing is not very very serious. And I'll show you the other one that I used for testing. So I used 3 different ones. And once the characters can pass this test, then I know I can move forward and finish it off. Right.
So they are mages. So they're like little Jedi. So going back to the Star Wars talk that we were saying earlier, the whole thing about these guys is they are little Jedi's fighting these giant moths, and they have telekinesis, and they shoot magic. And that's the conflict with our main character. Is that Caught? He wants to be a mage, but he has a really bad stutter, so he can't do his incantations very well. And then this is the professor that's always frustrated at the fact that not only is he not good because of his stutter, but his friend Mayo is always getting in the way.
Yeah. I'll show you some failed ones. I think this one failed. Oh, actually, I didn't save that one. Let me show you another one. As far as like the amount of iterations, this guy's on version, his clothing on version 70 or something like that. So it took 70 changes. So that's why it takes a while. Like the initial blocking of the clothing doesn't take that long.
Yeah, but it takes you a while to get it to simulate correctly.
Yeah, so you can see here, this one has all kinds of problems. If I freeze the frame, his stuff, if you're seeing black, that's not good. And some glances too, like his little skirt lifts up, and then you're seeing stuff that you don't want to see.
Which is awesome. I personally think seeing his little girly legs like that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of problems. Some of them he's stepping on his skirt. I don't know which one that is, and his pants falls down. So there's all kinds of like issues and all kinds of testing just to make sure that it's actually working out. Let me see.
This guy makes me laugh.
Yeah. Let's see this one here. And I'm trying to not compromise in getting it to work. Let's see. Oh, this one here, I like this idea. So there was an idea I had, and I've never made clothing like this, right? Where, again, this is all cloth, and where I created these kind of cool shapes. And I had like this really weird hat at the top, and I really liked it because it looked really weird and silly. But when I simmed it, it just vibrated so much, and it wouldn't stop just vibrating. And you could see the whole hat was just shimmering and shaking. So those are things I don't really want. These little guys were kind of tricky too, because
hold on, I have a few questions.
They would vibrate.
Just because you're getting ahead on some of these questions, so a question for you. The black sections are issues. Yeah. So how did you solve them? So that's kind of what she was showing. Is she had to modify the clothing in order to solve some of those simulation issues. The clothing was just not built. Not that it wasn't built physically accurate, but it was a pain in the ass to simulate. So the clothing, instead of trying to push that through, just kind of redesign it so that it simulates easier.
Yeah. So we don't ever try to muscle through things that don't work. Meaning like making it so design centric that we are going to be like, okay, I have absolutely need this to work, and not making any compromises. So originally, this was probably my first pass. His clothing is looser.
More
Everything,
Jedi.
Yeah, everything is longer, but it's simmed really poorly. And then I had these kind of shoulder pads, which I thought looked really funny. And I have all these simulations and I don't.
Yeah, so he's very much like the Obi-Wan type of character. So
Yeah, and I wish I could keep it that loose, but his skirt was flying up, and you're seeing all kinds of things that we didn't want to see. And you can see his shoulder pads in this one. It's flipping inside out. It's just having all these little problems, and we keep seeing his butt when he's running.
which I love that. I think that would be amazing. Show
Well,
his little butt.
I don't know about that.
I do.
What, you want to see his butt?
For sure. I think it's awesome.
I just finished approving it though. But you don't really want to see his butt, do you?
I do.
Chris wants to see his butt, you see?
Ginger Stud 69 says, yes,
Yeah.
show us.
So Marcus asks, are they puppets that came to life or really creatures? Okay, so good question. So the way it works, give me a second.
A little butt don't hurt. Well, now I have to think about whether I really want his booty in there. So
What if you just gave him a really big booty so like you could see it through the cloth? You know, like a few like further out, like I wish I could annotate. Actually, it's probably a better that I don't.
I mean, you see a little bit. Look, get a little leg. Is that enough?
I was thinking more like Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
So let me just answer that question real quick. So are they really puppets that came to life? So the way it works is this. The way they are made is they're basically all of these little guys, these threadlings, are created by their queen. And what the queen does is she weaves an egg out of yarn. And then these little miners, which are a character that we haven't done yet, they don't even have a mouth or anything. They mine these caverns for these crystals. And when you grab these crystals and you place it inside of that egg, the threadlings are born, right? And all of the eggs are blue until one day they find this red crystal, and from that red crystal, Mayo was born. That's the film is called "There's Something Wrong with Mayo." Mayo's a little crazy-looking blonde kid. So that's like how they function.
Yeah, they don't even
or whether they're alive or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have any like. It's actually very like PG. They just don't have anything. Like they don't have gender. They don't have nothing. They just kind of are.
Well,
born.
Mayo has a little. He has a gender technically.
Yeah, Mayo's his own thing.
Yeah.
But they are just cloth guys.
Yeah.
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 But there's lizards like that too in real life, right? There's a species of lizard that only has one gender that lays eggs by themselves, and they reproduce that way, and the eggs hatch.
So someone is saying this stuff reminds me of Jim Henson stuff, but for 3D. I love it. That is 100% the inspiration for all of this is the Jim Henson stuff from the 80s. That's what we want to go with in terms of the music as well. Very much John Carpenter-ish synthesizers, and the titles and everything make it feel like 80s puppets. So that's not an accident at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a question. It's just Marvels can't handle layer collisions well. It can, but like not when it's moving really fast, right? Also, the way I kind of describe it is like when you're working in Marvelous, you have to kind of go, okay, this is like cloth, except it's cloth covered in a layer of glue. So you touch it, or it's like tape. I don't know if anyone's ever gotten tape. You like, you pull the tape out and it sticks together, and then you can't take it apart.
I was reading about this yesterday. It's funny you say that, like covered with glue, about this. I mean, I don't know anything about football, but apparently there was a time where some of the football players started covering their hands with glue, and it was so much glue so that whenever they basically just have to touch the ball and they would just grab it, right? That they had to like ban it from football. It's kind of like that. Like your clothes is just completely covered in glue, and then it just is constantly shearing and ripping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone just asked, so Mayo is just wrong compared to the others, but he's the Neo of the story. He's the Neo of the story, but he's also the carry of the story. So imagine Mayo is basically like, what would you say? Like if he wasn't loved as much as he is, he would probably kill everyone. Right?
I guess so.
I guess so, yeah. So
I
he's
don't
like a crazy assassin that is loved. So he'll never do that.
Well,
but
he's also really pure and innocent.
he's pure and innocent.
Yeah, he has a
But
good heart,
if
and
you
he doesn't.
cross the one thing he doesn't allow to be crossed, he will destroy you.
Yeah, Mayo
And-
is
yeah.
really powerful. He doesn't know it because he doesn't really care about
He doesn't know how to control it. He doesn't even realize he has powers.
No,
But
because
when anybody messes with his best friend, they're screwed.
Yeah.
And his best friend is caught. Yeah.
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 This caught is the starting mage. So
He's a pure innocent assassin.
well, I would say the way Mayo is that he's not really greedy or ambitious. He is what I would like to be in life, which is very carefree and zen, and just living life and enjoying it. That's
Yeah.
how I see how Mayo is.
Yeah. So this would be awesome if it were documented and sold as a training course. Well, it is documented. We're documenting the whole thing here.
Yeah, so you can join us,
And
and we're
Every week we just show the process. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Voice in the Hollow, we did 90 something hours making us. So but every week, every Friday we're on here doing this, and every once in a while we manage to drag poor Chris into this.
yes. You're like, hey, Chris.
Sure, I'll do it. Let's do it.
This is the third amigo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't want to be anybody else's amigo.
Yeah. He's the best. So does anybody have questions? So that's basically it for this week. So Tran's awesome. Professor, so he is going to be missing an arm.
yeah, so now I'm gonna go back and
Yeah.
clean him up, cut out his arm off, and just shorten one sleeve. But when I do the tests with both arms, it's also just to see the simulation, because the animation is different at each side of the body. So that way I can see if there's any problems. And then this saves me a lot of pain later on, of not having to fix the clothing or things like that.
Yeah. And he lost his arm from a moth attack. So that's partially why he looks all grumpy, is because he knows what these little guys are going to go up against. And you think he's being kind of mean on them, but he's just worried because he knows, that these guys are gigantic demons. So, yeah. The moths do want to eat them. So that's the whole thing. These guys are all made out of fabric, and the moths eat fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a checklist, calculated approach while iterating over closed design to resolve collision? They went through all of this in the previous weeks. We had an episode with Marvelous Designer, so I would go back and look at that. But Tran is probably more extensively than any other video series has gone through clothing and simulation, in particular, using Marvelous. So I would just go back and check out the other episodes.
Yeah, on this one, we're using Marvelous so much, so I can't help but talk about it.
Yeah.
After a while, you kind of know if it's going to work. It is more challenging than the last one because I am doing things like building tubes, and I'm making this really weird pillow collar.
They're awesome.
Pillow collar, and I am asking for a lot of trouble. He has multiple layers stacked on top, and he's got like pleated kind of skirt. So he's got all kinds of weird things going on that make it really tricky. Double layering and all that stuff. So, yeah.
I got a question.
Yep.
What scale are these guys in comparison to the real world? Are the moths like the size of regular moths?
No.
No, I think our moths are probably big moths. But some moths do get pretty big, right? Like moths can get gigantic. Let me find.
I mean, but how big would you say this guy is compared to a human?
I think, well, compared to human, they're tiny, but I think
Like tiny enough to get some of these guys like made in real cloth, so we can put them on our desks.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would love that too.
Me too, guys.
I think they're probably like this. Let me show you.
Do you have a favorite, Chris? The character?
Dude, they're all my favorite. Like, I love them all. Like every time I see a new one, I'm like, God, you guys are geniuses.
I think this is the size of the moths. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. So the little characters are probably like that big.
Perfect. They fit in
That's
our.
much
Oh,
size.
perfect. Perfect for my desk.
Yeah.
Get on that, guys.
Yeah.
So we just kind of make sure that they feel small once we get them into the shots and stuff like that. And then that's a whole challenge with the environments in themselves. So, yeah. We'll see how it goes. They are, though, built life size because that will light much nicer and sim the clothing nicer and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Let's see. I think that's it. I've covered it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Chris, for showing us really cool stuff. I enjoy it. I learn things when you're showing us stuff. So it's very nice to have you on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So, and we'll show you guys some other stuff. So we do have some more images. We are holding back on some stuff, but we'll show you guys some stuff as we go. Cool.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
And I think that's it. So we'll see you next week, and we'll have Shrug on, hopefully.
Yeah. All right, Chris. See you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye.
Bye.